Well, hi, good morning. Thanks so much for joining me in my shop here. It's October 19th, and this radio's been out of my shop for a couple of weeks while I decompressed after struggling with it. A mighty struggle, which I won't go into the details because you're probably aware of it, with the alignment of this radio and some other issues with it. Right at the end, when things seemed to be coming together really nicely, all of a sudden the radio stopped tuning, in the sense that turning the tuning knob didn't change the tuning of the radio anymore. A mechanical problem developed in it. I struggled away with that, trying to understand this curious looking mechanism we're going to be taking a close look at. And today's video is going to be all about trying to make this thing work properly. Now, when I finished, in great frustration, unable to even understand why they had built it the way they built it, or exactly how this simple clutch mechanism should work, just wasn't coming really clear to me. I put the radio away to work on other stuff and clear my head, and the owner sent me a note saying, "Hey Jim, have you looked at how the AM side is tuned?" I literally ran down here to look and found out that the AM side has the same mechanism, tuning mechanism, to some degree, to a fair degree. Something I can compare to. And that's why you see two cameras up here right now, two cameras looking down into here and into here at the FM mechanism and the AM mechanism. Now there's a huge difference between the two. I mean, they look very similar. You can even look in the top here and you can see a similar looking mechanism. But the FM one has a set of push buttons and the AM side does not. So there is quite a difference between the two of them. But enough similarities that I think we're going to discover something fairly quick. Just in setting these cameras up, I started making observations that I'm going to share with you. So, and then I'm going to try to figure out what to do about this side so it will tune the radio. The buttons are less important to the owner. If the buttons don't come around and start working properly, it's not considered a loss. These buttons are like old car radio buttons, in the sense that you pull on them and then when you push them in, they'll remember where the radio was tuned. But I can't even pull these out, and I'm afraid of pulling a knob right off, like this one. I'm just pulling too hard. This one was already loose. So I'm inclined to leave all this alone. But the real issue is, how the heck have they made this work? Well, you can see on the AM side, the tuning drives the pointer with this rather marvelous mechanical approach to how you get a rotating thing to turn into a straight movement. No string pulling these. This is all mechanical, which is kind of interesting. But this one, no go. There's a disengagement between the knob and the actual tuning mechanism. The actual tuners, the electronic tuners, you can see the AM capacitor sitting here. And if I turn this, you can see it move. The FM one is hidden in this box, but if you look kind of carefully, or if I swing this and hope they don't drop my cameras, here's the mechanism that's driving the actual tuning part inside the box. It's probably not a capacitor, it's probably a slug in a coil, but I'm not sure what's inside the box. But again, if I turn the knob, nothing happened in there. So what has happened here? That's the question, and the bigger question, what am I to do about it? So I'm not going to switch to a view that you see with the two cameras. It's kind of a split screen view, and it's a little hard to tell where the split is. So first we're going to make that clear. Okay, there's the two mechanisms. You may be making observations already that there's a difference between the two. The first thing that's kind of interesting is, even though they're, and here, help you see the split screen, okay? Even though the mechanisms are on opposite sides of the stereo, you know, you would think that if these parts are arranged this way, on the other side they would be arranged, you know, this way, if you know what I mean. But they aren't. They are arranged the same way. So if we go to the split screen, this is not a camera trick. when you look at this, you see this clutchy looking thing, and then you see the gear. And oh my gosh, this is a problem for me. I've got the camera set so this is actually reversed to what I'm seeing. I didn't think of that. Okay, and over here it's the same arrangement. It's the same way. So the parts on the AM side, this is the AM side here, are reversed. Or not reversed, depending upon how you look at it. So, now, when I was looking at the FM side, I got very curious about this plate here. And you can see it's on a little bit of a kilter, a little bit of an angle this way. And I think its purpose is to trap or hold the big yellow gear against the drive gear, which is hard to see. It's down out of view. Well, it's not out of view. You can just see it there. You can see it right up in here. I think that's the purpose of that metal piece. You see the yellow gear is turning just fine, but it's just turning around on the shaft. The shaft inside here is a straight through piece of metal, goes straight into here. Wait a minute, where is my pointer? So that part's not on the camera here. Let's put it like this. I may find out this camera arrangement is more painful than helpful. So this shaft goes right through. It's continuous. So if you turn the shaft, you turn the mechanism, you turn the big wheel and drive the tuner which is out of view here. So when I turn the knob on the front, you can see the yellow wheel is just going along doing nothing. So the question would be, how's that yellow wheel supposed to drive the shaft? Now we look at the AM side, this side here. First thing you see is that metal plate is really, really straight, as you would imagine it would be. Let's bring in a little more light here. But the thing that really stands out, when you look in between here, you see bright orange material. When you look at the other side, you see, well, it's not bright orange. It's a darker material. This to me looks like uncompressed rubber or slightly compressed rubber. A little wider on this side than it is on this side. Well, when you look over here, you can kind of see that, but it looks much thinner. My guess, it's dried out. It's dried out, it's broken down, it's lost its rubberiness. Why so different here than over here? I can only guess, and it is a guess. When you look at the AM side here, at this clutch-like mechanism, what it looks like to me is two metal plates with a piece of rubber in between. A single piece of rubber in between. The other side looks twice as thick. The rubber in here looks twice as thick, and you can clearly see there's two pieces of rubber. If I were to make a clutch, I would make it like this. I would make it with two rubber pieces pushed against each other with metal plates on either side. Surely to goodness, that's a clutch. Why no clutch over here? Well, there's no push buttons. There's never ever a need to separate the tuning knob, which I'm turning now, from the mechanism. There's never a need for that. My guess at this point is, if I loosen off the set screw you can see down here and slide this piece back, I'll remove pressure from on that rubber piece. And it's the pressure that is causing this drive to be solid. Maybe be if I held it tight enough. If I held that gear tight enough and then tried to turn the shaft, or held this tight enough and then turn the steering gear, maybe I would see there's some slippage there. Now we can go to the end of the run and kind of have that happen. I go all the way to the end. You can see the capacitor is now closed. I can say a couple things about this. One is you can see my hand going back and forth. There's no sudden bang, it stops. Now in most radios there's a string involved, and so you would kind of expect a little springiness at the end. This one's really all kind of metal solid parts. So why would it be springy? I gotta guess. The springiness is coming from the plate, the thin plate, or it's coming between the thin plate and that brass rubber non-clutch mechanism there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange these cameras up closer. I'm going to stop while I do it because it's too much monkey business. I might even closer look at this situation. Okay, let's take a look and see what we can see. I've turned the cameras around so they're oriented the same way I am. So what I see on the screen is the same thing I see when I look inside. Let's take a peek at what we can see now. So the one on the left is the FM one with these, what I imagine to be a separable clutch, and the one on the right is the AM side with no separable clutch. I've tried to focus in on that orange piece you can see on the right. A little harder to see on the left. I just couldn't quite get it to come out. Now, just looking at that piece, it doesn't look all that different on either side, other than the color. The color seems off. Now, when I tune the AM side, that's what we get. When I tune the FM side, that's what we get. So look carefully. The metal plate is not moving on this side. The side I'm turning. Is that metal plate somehow keyed to the shaft? I doubt it. I think I could reach in there with a tool and move it independently. It's wiggling back and forth, which means it's not under a lot of pressure from the part to the right. I'm going to push one of the buttons on the front of the radio here. Everything may go for a crapper when I do this. Let's see if I can shake everything off the radio here. Well, look at that. Pretty clear what's going on. So pushing on the button is retracting the yellow gear and taking it off that rubber piece. And look, you can practically see there's a gap remaining. It's not pushing it tight enough. So I'm going to guess that what's happened here is unlike the AM side, the FM side is under a bit of spring pressure. Should be. This yellow gear, when I release the front button, oh, I'm pushing the button all the way here. So you can see how that would separate the tune. This is all about stopping the tuning knob from spinning when you push a button. So the yellow gear you can think of as the tuning knob. It's quite clear what's going on. It's just not engaging. And it looks like the solution is really simple. You just loosen off that set screw and push the clutch forward. I don't think it's a clutch. I think we're seeing the clutch in action. I think that rubber, the red piece, or what should be red, is the grip. Now it's kind of weird that it would grip this metal plate that appears to be just freely spinning in there, or has the potential to freely spin. But maybe not. Maybe that metal piece is keyed into the yellow wheel somehow. It certainly travels with the yellow wheel, doesn't it? Yet I saw the yellow wheel can turn and leave that plate. Let me push the button here and then turn the wheel. Separate the plates. Whoops, a little too far. Oh, now the plate turns. So what is supposed to make that plate, if the orange or red rubber piece is supposed to slam into that metal plate and jam it up against the yellow wheel, why wouldn't it slip? There should be like a rubber washer in there or something to make the, unless the wheel is keyed. It certainly isn't. Well, sure looks like so if pressure has been maintained by a spring pushing the yellow wheel into the rubber piece on the FM side, that constant pressure is going, and the fact that it can squeeze the rubber and continue to apply pressure because it's spring loaded, so it just, the yellow gear just moves forward and keeps applying more pressure and eventually compresses the rubber piece. And when it's compressed, a rubber piece like that, chemical changes can occur in the rubber. They're unstable. Rubber, whatever that material is, it's unstable to some degree. That's why these things crack and stuff like that. The other side, there must be an arrangement to provide a steady pressure. There's no spring involved on the AM side. On the AM side, Jim, AM side. And because the pressure can't build, or they've locked it in some other fashion, it hasn't compressed. Even the change in color, I don't know for sure. I'm not a chemist, of course, but even the change in color might indicate that it was under pressure. Spring-loaded pressure, continuous pressure, compressing it to the point where it's failed now. When this receiver first arrived on my bench, I noticed a lot of looseness in the FM tuning. It was very, very annoying. And I actually began to grab the side wheel here. I began to grab the side wheel to tune it. I got so frustrated with the front knob. So it was already loosened up. And just while it's been here in my shop, I finished it off. I've made it so loose. Let's just examine this plate thing now. Can I get a tool in there with the camera in there and with everything in there? It looks big on the camera. It's pretty tight in there. Just to see if it'll turn, or really do I need to? I think what I should do is just let off on the let off, let me just turn this on that set screw, and then push this piece up tight. In order for if we want the push buttons to work, it can't go more forward than just a little wee bit. That's the amount, little wee bit, that's the specification. And yikes, getting a tool in there, that's a very small set screw. That's the plan of action. Recompress the rubber bumper. And, well, what about what obviously looks like a clutch? Well, I've never seen it separate. One side pretty obviously fused. Actually, you can see it on this one better. Well, I don't know if it's fused. I'm looking at the collar on the shaft. It looks like brass. The plate looks a little more like copper. Looks like a different material. But surely to goodness, if you turn the shaft and turn the collar, you turn the whole thing. Why would they bother doing this? Why not? It's because the engineers had a heck of a time coming up with a reliable system to disengage the front knob. And when they finally found it, they decided, well, this is how we're going to do them. I don't get it. There's no need for a clutch over here at all. Unless there was a version of this radio with push buttons on the AM side. I don't know, it's curious why this mechanism looks so similar. Yet the clutch piece, the double rubber, is missing. Exactly what they were doing, I don't know. Maybe they said, well, if we have a different mechanism, we have to manufacture a bunch of different parts. Can't we do something with the same parts? And then our manufacturing can just be the same part. And we'll save 2 cents per radio. Now, if you can clearly see, the brass collar isn't fused. At least it's not a continuous piece of metal. You see a little separation there. So, you know, what's locking the copper plates to the brass? What was that? I just win something? What happened? And there's not much compression in there at all, the way it looks to me. It looks like it's barely compressed. Let me just see if I can can I simply push this knob in a little bit here? What I'm doing is I'm putting my finger on the shaft. See if I can jam it forward at all. No, that shaft is actually continuous all the way through, right into here, so I'd be moving a lot of stuff around. And pulling it and pushing it, there's no play in it at all. Or is, you know, the yellow piece is exactly the same piece. It has the slot for the finger on the FM side to pull on it, but there's no finger on this side. So they just used exactly the same parts. What's keeping that yellow piece where it's supposed to be? And then it just slipped out the shaft here. Can't really. We could look at it there. So I think that's the yellow shaft. Sorry for the focus. Ooh. The yellow plastic, rather. So that's an interesting question too. What is locking that yellow gear? Well, it's a stupid question. It's locking. The yellow gear's not locked to the shaft. It's through this rather weird clutching thing. Okay, overthinking at this point. Time to try the solution on the other side. I gotta hunt down some very appropriate tools for this. So you might be saying, "Oh, Jim, why are you being so? You're going overboard with this thing. Just get in there and loosen that set screw. You could have figured that out sooner." Well, maybe I could have figured that out sooner. That part might be true. But the reason I'm so cautious is if something goes wrong here and this tuning knob never comes back to life, it kind of ruined the radio. I don't want that to happen. So here I have my glorious set screw drivers, but that's a very tiny one. The thing about turning these set screws, and I can't say I've ever had really trouble with it, is, you know, again, I don't know for sure what's going to happen. Maybe something's going to break when I go to do that. Oh my gosh, I got to rummage through this. And I don't know if I've got something that fine. And I've got another place to look too. All my usual tools are way too big to go in there. But I have this very unusual set a friend of mine gave me years and years ago. Torque Vario. It's a torque wrench of some sort. It says right on it. 7-inch pounds. 7-inch pounds of torque, but I can't get the action. All these nice tools, they're all pretty small. I'm going to pick the smallest one. Looks like it would go into a set screw. Let's see. Okay, well, oh, didn't stay in there. There. Now I'm just going to look myself and see if it by some chance fits. It's actually too small. That one's too small. There's a few here. Let me get a camera going so we can see this a little closer. Maybe I'm just going to flip back. It's very awkward to put this on camera here. Especially when I've got the coffee shakes going on. So I'm going to stop and figure this out. It might be fiddling for a while here. Okay, now if I just turn this on a bit of an angle, should be able to come in this way. Next size up. That feels good. One thing that could go wrong is to strip that by putting in a slightly undersized tool and then cranking on it. Play is in the handle, not in the tool down there. And one larger. I should try it before let's see. I have a whole bunch of them actually getting larger. So this one's the next size up. Yeah, if I strip that, yeah, this isn't seating at all. If I strip that, I'll be writing a sad email. Okay, back to what I think is the right tool. Now this screw could be frozen in there pretty solid. Here we go. Just applying steadily increasing force. Something's moving there, but I'm not sure what it is. So the tool, looking right at the bit to see if it has any play in it. It does look like it does. Yeah, it could be one of these inch-millimeter problems. Let me turn this wheel just a little more, get a little better. Yeah, the tool is wiggling in there. Oh boy. So I mean, if I crank this tool around and strip the inside of that, what else can I do? Try the next larger size up again. I'm looking carefully at the tool set here to make sure there isn't another size somewhere in it. Sure, it doesn't seem to be. I'm lucky enough to have this. Okay, this is the next size up. Yeah, there's no way it's going in. It's just going over the top. I wish we could get a better look at it. Because, you know, I should put a little bit of some kind of oil in there. The thing about that is it's going to reduce the grip of the tool. So it doesn't seem to be rotating, does it? I'm kind of mumbling. Yeah. Thought I saw it. Yeah, I'm going to put a little more pressure on it. Let me try this. Get this tool apart. What I've done is that's how this tool works. But if I just put this in my hand, I'm going to feel direct into this. There's a little bit of play in the tool handle. Get rid of that play. Maybe I'll get a better feel for just how well this is going in. Because once you grind that out, once I grind that out accidentally, there's no going back. I mean, what would you do then? That's a scary thought. So Now I'm feeling for play. I can feel it rocking back and forth in there. Something's rocking and something. Oh my gosh. Can I get my fingers right down there? Definitely rocks around in there, inside. So if I put some oil in there, I think it might increase the chance of it slipping and I almost want to say cam out, but that's not the right term. Ruin it, that would be a good term for it. Well, okay, the best thing I can do is stop for a while and let this soak into my head a bit. I'm sure I don't have anything that tiny, like a standard sized I'd have to try stealing the set screw from the AM side and then somehow freezing up the AM side with something else. I don't know how you're going to do that. Plus, think about it too. If I loosen that screw off, I have to tighten it up again. Tightening it up is actually worse than loosening it off, because you're going to want to apply even more force to it. And have I already damaged it? Let me take my other camera, stick it right in there and take a good look at it. My other camera, these are two very similar cameras, Microsoft cameras, but this one does super duper close-ups. Let's see what we can see here. I think it's still on the split screen thing, so okay. Get it aimed on the set screw. It's going to be tricky to light this. Very tricky. There it is. There we are. There's a good look at it. Excellent. Okay, just a little focus. Hopefully I can focus this. Okay. Hopefully I haven't had double audio. My voice has been echoing. It's because one of the camera microphones keeps popping on. I don't think you can hear it. Okay, this is the guide to focus. Ooh, look at that. What's the ooh? It looks like, and I can't really point at this, it looks like there's already been some damage done to it. Not by me, I haven't applied anywhere near enough force. Jeepers, can I get the tool in there and look at it? That's a good question. I have to pull the camera out of the way briefly. I'll stick the tool in. Come on, go in. Okay. I'm trying to get a look at it now. Where are you? There. Okay, a little focus is going to help here. Oops. Focusing the wrong camera. that showing us? Showing us I need light from another angle. Well, you really can't see how the tool is seated in there. Can I wiggle it? I've got the camera right in the way now. Not really. Coming from the sides, no. There's no access to it. I cannot reach the tool with the camera sitting there to wiggle it and just see how much play is there. It would feel a lot better if I could see it. Okay, I'm going to stop and try to rearrange the cameras here and get some way of seeing it and wiggling it at the same time. Okay, so I can't get this any more focused than it is now. That's like an electronic zoom, if you like. And I'm sure if I put my fingers in there, I'm not going to be able to see anything. Oh, my finger's in there. No wonder I couldn't. Oh, something's gone wrong. That's a frozen image. Let's try this. That's why I can't focus it. Okay, now just bear with me while I attempt to focus this. So what's happening is I'm using two Microsoft cameras. They're very similar. And what I think is happening is my computer is stumbling over things like the dialog box and that. Let's see, this is going to do something. Here we go. Fantastic. Okay, get it focused as best I can. Found a new corner in the video software I use to enable this to happen. Okay, now the idea is to see if this is in there solidly. How am I going to do that? I don't want to bump. I gotta everything under the sun is in the way. Here. Not much I can do except reach in there with my fingers. Well, the fact that it wiggles like this is a really bad sign. You have to ask myself, do I dare try to drive that out of there with this loose? Oh boy. How come it's so loose? What's going on? Why, Okay, I'm looking really carefully at those tools. Did I overlook another one? No. Try the next. That's the size down. This is the size up. Try it again. No, there's just no way that's going to go in there. That's a quandary. Attempt to do this. The worst case would be I manage to get it loose, but I can never get it tight enough again. That would be bad. So I'm not going to do anything except think about it. Maybe I still have some more tools around here. Okay, well these tools are very, very small, but when I took a close look at them, I could see some writing. Here's the writing on them. The one in the middle is the one that seems to fit best, but is a little bit loose. So, and look at that. One of them is in millimeters, and the other two are in inches. So, let's see. This is a Canadian-built device. Would it have been built with the British measurement or metric? It would be metric, I'm pretty sure. 1.3 millimeters. Oh, yeah, 1.3 millimeters dash 0.050 inches. So it's also really in inches. Well, why are they labeling these different? W-I-H-A. Hua. SW. 1/16. I have no idea what that stuff means. See if I can find out what this means. I'm going to look in the manual. By some wild chance do they indicate the size of these set screws. It's a wild chance. It didn't take long to find out the Wiha is the name of the company. W-I-H-A. Wiha dot. Premium tools for professionals. Oh, that's the problem. These are intended for professionals. No wonder I'm having trouble. Well, I've dug around, found a few more things, and you can take a look under the close-up camera here. You know, when I look at the sizes, and okay, the 1/16 seems to be ever so slightly too small. What I would really want, well, let's convert that to 64. So that's 4 64ths. I would want a 5 64ths. It's right there. Wait a minute, that's not what went through my head a minute ago. And the 5 64ths just spins. 4 64ths is the one that goes in and feels a little loose, and the smallest one goes in and spins. Did I say the big one goes in and spins? It doesn't go in. It spins on the top. So I did find a couple of other things here. The smallest sort of... Change cameras. Right. So I'm just converting the 1/16 to 64ths. It's 4 64ths. The next step up would be 5 64ths. When you look at the... that's the smallest Allen key I can find, the black thing. And above it is, I'm not sure what you call that kind of tool. I do have one smaller. I have one smaller here. Get this guy out of here. Now this is not really the appropriate kind of tool. These are 6-sided, right? Yeah, 6-sided. But I wonder if we can put that in there. Well, we can stick it in and try, but we don't have to put pressure on it, don't have to take any risks. But that looks a little like something you would ream out one of these tools with. I mean, that's meant to go into a different kind of thing. A little panicky trying that. Well, I just won't put pressure on it. And I won't bother sticking the camera up there because this will just take a second. I'm just going to do it myself here. Put it in. Oh, it goes in, and it's loose and wobbly like crazy. Just for fun, here's a big one. I could beat it with it. I did look through the manual. The manual talks about the dimension of these wheels, but it never ever mentions an Allen key. These look more typical size Allen. I got the right set screws. These are larger set screws. Even if I found the right size Allen key, could it be? Yeah, you can put it in there and turn it. I was a little worried about turning it. Well, either we take a risk here, but the risk is too great because I ream out that little guy, and what am I going to do then? My plan was to loosen that off and drive it forward. Well, what if I just follow the same plan but try to drive the yellow thing this way? Even just try it by hand. I've done this and it didn't seem to do anything. But I'm curious enough to try that simple idea again, because getting on towards lunchtime here. Just make a little space. So I have tried this. I'm going to put a screwdriver in the finger slot. That's what I'm calling it. Apply some pressure and see if this will start turning the mechanism. So you'll know this is turning the mechanism if the pointer starts moving. So So do I have something to lever against? Not really. Oh, son of a gun. I want to lever against something. Maybe this is going to do it. That's crazy. There's a screw head here. Okay, that's good. Okay, so I can apply, this is a long lever here. I can apply a lot of force. Now we got to watch that pointer and see what happens to it. Actually, all you got to watch are these wheels. If the wheels turn, we're in business. Well, some kind of business. What kind of business? A failing business. Okay, so applying some pressure. Oh my God. It's trying. It's trying, but of course this is a bit of a brake on it also. I mean, if you put enough pressure in here, you're stopping it. That's kind of curious. There's a bit of play. Well, that's another whole solution, and that is to somehow push that yellow gear over better. There's a little finger down here doing that. I have the feeling that the rubber piece, the pink or red rubber piece, no longer red, has shrunk enough to cause all these problems. Why can't I slide something down in there to compensate for its loss of dimension, like a washer, like a split washer? Why can't I? I don't know. Why not? Or a piece of metal, a thin piece of metal. Yeah, why not? Why not? I'm sure there's a good answer to that question. Something more going on. For a while I thought there were fingers sticking back into this yellow plastic piece from over here, but I don't think that's the case. Is that a rubber piece which is out of focus in there? Is that really meant to clutch? Why do they have these ridiculous split things here? Which I pried open. Didn't I pry those open once? I think I did pry them a little bit. That's kind of curious too. Sorry for the lousy camera work here. Look at the size of my screwdriver. It looks like I'm trying to drive a boxcar in there. Yeah, this isn't going to work. And what would that achieve? Well, you know what? If I could wedge that open. Oh, it looks a little open now. If I could wedge that open, shove something in there, would apply pressure back against this yellow piece, which is being pushed forward by the finger we can't see that's in this slot. And I believe the finger is being pushed forward by a spring. Now, so why don't I just widen this guy up somehow? Widen up that clutchy thing. Could do something temporary and see what happens. Okay, I'm going to think about that approach. You really got to have an imagination to come up with this stuff. Where am I going to get one? I need an imagination. Maybe it's in my cup of coffee. Maybe time for a little bit of an aside. Look at this book. By Osborne. Osborne was a professor at the University of Buffalo. My father lived in Fort Erie in Canada. That's my father's signature there, 1960. I don't know, this is just so out of character for my father. Somehow he got involved with this guy, Osborne. He got to know him. And Osborne gave him this book. There's another copy of this book in my house somewhere that's signed by Osborne. Principles and Procedures of Creative Problem Solving. This is a great book. The reason he wrote this book was he felt that universities were missing this. Universities were not teaching how to apply your imagination. He wrote this book basically to encourage universities to develop these courses. Just look at Thomas Edison, according to his son Charles, definitely believed in puzzle solving as a creative exercise. That's exactly what we're doing here. That's exactly what we're doing here. The interesting thing about this book, and look, it's pretty extensive, is just trying to convince the university system in the United States to take on this as a value of copious ideation. Let's talk about that just for a moment here. Uninhibited search for hypotheses. I mean, this is a really interesting book. He is the one who didn't coin the phrase, but actually dreamed up the whole idea of brainstorming. Is it going to be in here somewhere? Let's look at the index. That's what I was looking for. Preface, I guess the index follows. Is he going to talk about it here? Oh my gosh, look at this thing. Creative calibration by teams. Two-headed teamwork. Creative calibration by groups. Brainstorming is the term that he came up with. This is the guy. Now, we all heard that. We've all heard that, and we sit around and go, let's brainstorm this thing. But in this book, he details the real process of brainstorming. And because I managed to read this book while I was still working in my career, I applied it. It's a simple thing. You have a group of people facing a problem. And the first stage is uninhibited ideation. And what you do is you tell everybody, no critical statements can be made for the next few minutes while we think up ideas. Every idea is worth writing down. Let's say the problem is, I don't know where to put the fire extinguisher. I don't know what the problem would be. Where should we put the fire extinguisher? So, the first guy comes up with an idea on the table over there. Nobody can criticize that idea. It gets written down, maybe on a board up front of the group. No criticism. But if somebody doesn't understand it, they can ask, well, what table are you talking about? Well, that one over there. Oh, okay, that one over there. But no critical thinking, no criticism at all. You just let the ideas go. It can be a lot of fun. I mean, sure, you've done this. If people start laughing, they come up with crazy ideas. Well, let's wear them on our head. The thing is, some of those crazy ideas will lead you directly to an idea you would never get to. That's called lateral thinking. So here I am stuck. Of course, I'm not in a group. It's just me alone. But these ideas work for me too. They work for individuals. And he's got all kinds of stuff in that book about how individuals can do this. Don't be critical of your own ideas. Let your imagination run wild. Throw out the wild ideas. Kick them around, for crying out loud. Because somewhere down the road, you're going to think up something you would never have thought up if you just did linear thinking, right? One thought leads to the next. That's like going down a train tracks, and you're missing all the beautiful scenery off to the side. So I don't talk about that. I talked about this a few times on some of my videos. This is extremely important stuff. Right? Human beings are imagination machines. Think about this. My wife and I were driving. I'm going to wrap on about this. We were driving down the highway a couple years ago, and we're going through Algonquin Park, which is a huge treed, laked, rocked area. And we're just driving along Highway 60. If you're Canadian, you might know what I'm talking about. And occasionally, something goes by that it always human-made. And we're driving along, and I'm looking at the road, and I'm looking at the signs going by, and then all the scenery and that. And I said to my wife, you see, everything we see that has been done by human beings, before it was done, existed in somebody's imagination. Absolutely everything is an extension. We're traveling in the human imagination. This radio is human imagination made manifest. I think that's really cool. I think that's something to realize, that everything we see has come out of somebody's imagination, and often many people's imaginations through some kind of stepwise process. I think Osborne was perfectly right. Human imagination is extremely important for all of us, and we should learn to promote it, to develop it, to expand it. I use coffee a lot. Yes, coffee. There's other things too you can use, by the way, besides coffee. Get your imagination going. Very hard to synthesize completely brand new ideas never before thought of. Usually what we're doing is we're taking that idea and we're adding them together or subtracting them and getting a new version of the two things. But to actually come up with a new idea, boom, right here, is extremely difficult for human beings to do. So that's why the lateral thinking is important, because rather than going linearly down the train tracks, you're running around and throwing crazy stuff up. It's still kind of a one thing leading to another. But what you're doing now is you're putting ideas together that you would never find on the tracks. And you start putting stuff together. Well, maybe not on your head. Maybe a holster on your hip. Or maybe some kind of fitting on your shoulder so the fire extinguisher will hang on your back. You know, onwards and onwards and onwards. No criticism during brainstorming. So you're going to get involved in this probably. You're going to sit down with a group and going to start thinking up stuff. Without saying too much to them, you can guide the group. This is what I did where I worked. I wouldn't say, hey, I read Osborne's book, let's do it this way. I would just say, wait a minute, let's just lay off the criticism for now and just let the ideas flow. You know, that kind of thing. Well, no ideas have flowed here. Yeah, that's right. Yes, there is an idea. I forgot the... Yeah, that's the other problem with human beings, is they great imaginations, but they tend to forget. So I've got a whole set of funny little chips of metal here. This is the kind of thing I'm thinking. I would kind of cut this with a slot and slide it down in between the rubber parts there and expand it out and see if that doesn't apply pressure back enough to overcome the situation here. In fact, this could slide in maybe in some other places in there too. But now I'm going to allow time. Time is very, very important in doing this kind of stuff. I'm going to let time happen. And what time is it? Well, it's almost lunchtime here. So, okay. So sorry about the rant, but I'm trying my best to share anything I've got to share that might be worthwhile with you. That's what I'm doing. Okay, let's try a little experiment here. I'm gonna open up the clutch and try to jam this down in there, just as it is. It's a little bit big, isn't it? Just to see it, and just kind of like a test experiment here. Test experiment. Wow, there's room for a lot in there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's actually quite a gap there I can open up by pulling this back. If I pull that back, I'm disengaging it, aren't I? This may not be the best idea. No surprise there. It's the first idea. Okay, stick that in there. Come on. Wait a minute, can I push this button in and pull that back? Well, that's interesting. I can pull this back with my hand quite a distance, but the button plunging doesn't pull the yellow back. Come on. This looks simple. There it goes, finally. Okay, not a lot of room here to test it. Well, that would qualify as a complete failure, wouldn't it? Push this yellow too far, it'll disengage with the gee, I wonder if the secret is these buttons not operating. Well, okay, that was an idea. It's not completely insane, but didn't work first attempt. That's it for today. I've run out of time, and because look, it's now almost 1 o'clock because of other things happening around here. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to continue with this. In the meantime, I'm going to look for a tool to loosen that. Well, think about it now. If I spread this, I'm in effect moving it this way. It didn't seem to help out. I'm less attracted to try to move this. Oh boy, oh boy. Thanks a lot for watching, and hopefully we're going to figure something out. I may have to take some kind of draconian approach to this.